Hello students, let's look at this problem together. Which number line represents the solution set to the inequality 180 minus 72x is less than or equal to 468? So let's go ahead and start by writing this inequality again here. So 180 minus 72x has to be less than or equal to 468. So once again, following our equation and inequality rules, we are making sure that we are doing the same thing to both sides of the sign. So I'm going to draw that line just to remind me that whatever I do to one side, I'm going to do to the other. I'm going to look for my variable. My variable is in the second part of this expression. And that means that 72 is the coefficient. 72 is being multiplied by x, and it's actually a negative 72 times x, and then they're adding the 180. Please make sure to always do the coefficient undoing last. So whatever number is with the x, we're going to leave that as the second step. So our first step is going to be this one right here. I'm going to be undoing the 180. Now, if I look at this 180, it's a positive 180 because in front of it, there is not a negative sign, okay? This negative is for the 72. So that means that this is a plus 180, and the opposite or the inverse of plus 180 is minus 180. So remember, whatever I do to one side, I'm going to have to do to the other. So 180 minus 180 is 0. And that is how I have undone that. And now I am left with negative 72x. That's all that's left on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side, I'm going to simplify and evaluate 468 minus 180. So that's going to be 8. 6 minus 8, I cannot, so I borrow and regroup. $288. So now we are not quite done because our variable is not isolated or not alone yet. It's still being multiplied by that negative 72 by its coefficient. So remember, to undo that multiplication, we are going to what? Divide, absolutely. But this is one of those special cases we have to be careful because we are going to divide by what kind of number? Yes, we are dividing by a negative because we're dividing by negative 72. So we have to remember that whatever I do to one side, I'm going to do to the other. And I also want to remember a very important rule about when we divide by negative in our inequalities. If I am dividing by a negative, something special is going to happen to this sign. Do we remember? Yes, it has to flip. It has to go in the other direction now. So make sure that you make that notation. Okay, so now that we know the sign is going to flip, we can continue with our math. 72 divided by 72, or negative 72 divided by negative 72 is 1. And that leaves us with x finally isolated by itself. And we are going to work out 288 divided by negative 72. Okay, a positive divided by a negative is a negative. And then we have 72 goes into 288 4 times. So x is greater than or equal to negative 4. So we have our solution set. It's not just one solution, it's a solution set, like it said in the problem, because there's not just one solution, there's multiple solutions. The answer could be negative 4, because it could be equal to negative 4, but it could be also numbers that are greater than negative 4. Okay, so there are multiple answers. Now let's talk about our starting point is at negative 4, and like we said, it is being included, as we see here, is can be equal to -4. So that means that we are expecting to find a closed circle. Let's remember, if we have the greater sign, just like that, that would be an open circle. But if we have the greater than and equal to sign, that is a closed circle. The difference is that when we have the equal sign, we are including that number as part of the solution set. And when we have just the greater than symbol with no equal sign, then we want any number that gets really close to this number, but not that number itself. So we leave it open to say we're getting as close to this number, but not that number as part of the solution set. So since we have the equal sign in our solution, we're going to make sure that we are going to have a closed circle. So that means D is out. Okay. Also, we can see here that we are starting at -4. Okay. Now, instead of going in this route and looking for it, I'm actually going to come over here because I would like to review what these number lines are showing. So let's look at letter A and see what this is saying. This is saying we're starting at, what's our starting point? This is a +4. And so this one is going to the left. Remember we said left is less. And to the right is the greater numbers. So this one is saying our answers are less than, or, and it's a closed circle, so it can also be equal to, and the number right here is 4. Okay, so that is not what we're looking for. This one is saying X, and you see that the numbers are going to the right, so greater than. It's a closed circle, so it can also be equal to, and this number right here, 0, -1, -2, -3, -4. Okay, X is greater than or equal to -4. That looks just like my solution set. So I'm going to keep that one in consideration. Let's just review C. So here we have X. We see that the arrow is pointing to the left, so it's going to be less than. It's a closed circle, so it can also be equal to. And the number right before the +5 is +4. Okay? And then let's, even though we already eliminated D, let's talk about the difference when we have that open circle. So this would be X. And then we see that it's going to the right, so that would be greater than. And it does not include that number. So we would not put the equal sign there. It's just a greater than, and then it is -4. Okay, so do you see the difference? Okay, so the correct answer that matches our solution set is B. That would be the correct answer.